The door slid open with a soft mechanical sigh, the kind you barely notice until it's too late. And for half a second I thought I was still dreaming, because no version of my life included an alien standing in my doorway at 2 in the morning, staring at me like she'd just walked in on a crime scene. She didn't scream. She didn't move. She just froze. One long, silent moment stretched between us, thick enough that I could hear my own pulse in my ears, my heart hammering like it was trying to escape my ribs. Her eyes, those unfamiliar, reflective eyes that never quite looked human no matter how long you got used to them, locked onto mine and refused to let go. The lights in my small dorm room hummed quietly overhead, casting shadows across the walls, across her frame, across the exact reason she'd stopped breathing. I was standing there, bare, chested, towel hanging low on my hips, steam still clinging to my skin from the shower I'd just stepped out of, and suddenly I understood. This wasn't awkward. This was catastrophic. Because this wasn't just any alien. This was my classmate, and the look on her face said she'd just learned something she was never supposed to know. She swallowed, slow and visible, her throat working like she was forcing herself to remember how biology functioned. One of her hands tightened on the doorframe, fingers curling slightly, claws clicking faintly against the metal. Her species tried to pass as calm under stress. I'd learned that in xenopsychology. Right now she was failing spectacularly. She started, then stopped, her voice cutting off like someone had yanked the power. Her gaze flicked away for exactly half a second, then snapped right back to me, sharper this time, focused, almost assessing. That was when I realized this wasn't embarrassment. It was shock, and fear, and something else I couldn't quite name yet. Kai, she said finally, my name sounding wrong in her mouth, stretched by the subtle differences in her jaw and vocal cords. You were not supposed to be like this. Not supposed to be like what? Human. Alive. Standing in my own room at 2 in the morning while my alien classmate trespassed through my door like it was the most natural thing in the galaxy. I opened my mouth to say something. Anything, but nothing came out. My brain was still catching up to the fact that Lyra Vexethal, top of our comparative physiology class, model student from the Keller Dominion, was currently burning a hole through me with her eyes and looking like she might bolt, faint, or do something much worse. The silence stretched again, uncomfortable, dangerous. The kind of silence where things change. I knocked, she said, a little too quickly. I blinked. You what? I knocked, she repeated, insistently now, like this detail mattered more than the situation unfolding in front of us. Twice. You did not respond. I assumed. She stopped herself, lips pressing together. I assumed you were incapacitated. Incapacitated, I echoed faintly. Her eyes flicked to the side of my room, scanning it with the sharp efficiency of someone trained to spot threats. Bed, desk, data slate, chair. Nothing out of place. Nothing dangerous. Nothing that explained why I was very much alive and very much not incapacitated. I was in the shower, I said. That should have made things better. It didn't. Her pupils dilated slightly, a reflex she probably didn't even realize she was giving away. The Keller weren't supposed to show emotional tells so easily. Lyra prided herself on control. Right now, her composure was hanging by a thread. You live alone, she said quietly. It wasn't a question. Yeah, I replied. Standard human dorm assignment. Another pause, another careful inhale. And you did not activate a privacy field, she added. I glanced behind me, then back at her. Didn't think I needed one. That was when her gaze dropped just for a moment before snapping back to my face like she'd been burned. Her breathing changed, shallower, faster. Something fundamental had shifted, and I could feel it in the air, a tension crawling over my skin that had nothing to do with the towel or the situation and everything to do with the fact that she was seeing me differently now. Not as a classmate, not as a harmless human exchange student, but as something unexpected. You should not be exposed like this, she said, voice low, almost strained. I couldn't help it. A nervous laugh slipped out. You're the one in my room, Lyra. That did it. Her jaw tightened. Her shoulders squared. And for the first time since she'd stepped inside, she took a full step forward, the door sliding shut behind her with a soft click that echoed way too loudly in the small space. My stomach dropped. "Kai," she said, and this time there was no mistaking the weight behind my name. "Do you have any idea what you are advertising right now?" Advertising. That single word sent a cold ripple down my spine. "I'm pretty sure I'm not advertising anything," I said carefully. "I'm just trying to survive an awkward misunderstanding." Her eyes didn't leave mine. "Humans," she said slowly, "are not built the way our orientation materials suggested." Orientation materials. I swallowed. This was going somewhere I had not prepared for. "I didn't mean to alarm you," I said, shifting slightly, instantly regretting the movement when her attention sharpened even more. "If this is about cultural boundaries, I can grab a shirt." "No," she said immediately. Too immediately. She caught herself, straightening. "Do not move." That was new. My heart thudded harder. Lara. Her gaze softened just a fraction, but it didn't lose its intensity. "There are things about your species," she said quietly, "that we were not told. Things that, if observed firsthand, require reevaluation." Reevaluation of what? Of humans. Of me. Or of whatever expression was flickering behind her eyes now, something dangerously close to curiosity mixed with alarm. Outside, the station's artificial night cycle continued like nothing was wrong. Inside my room, time felt suspended, balanced on a knife's edge. I had the sudden, unsettling realization that this moment, this exact second, was the point of no return. Because whatever Lyra had come here for, whatever protocol she thought she was following, it had just collided head-on with reality, and she wasn't ready for the consequences. Neither, I suspected, was I. The first thing that broke was not the silence. It was the space between us. Lyra moved without warning, crossing the room in 2 smooth steps that were far too graceful for someone clearly shaken. One moment she was by the door. The next she was close enough that I could see the faint bioluminescent veins beneath her skin pulse brighter, reacting to stress or proximity. I couldn't tell which. The air shifted as she stopped, just short of touching me, close enough that I felt warmth where there shouldn't have been any. "Do not misunderstand," she said quietly. "This is not personal." That would have been more convincing if she hadn't angled her body to block the narrow path between me and my bed, or if her eyes weren't tracking every breath I took like it mattered. "Okay," I said slowly. "Then what is it?" She hesitated. That alone told me how bad this was. "In my culture," she began, choosing her words with the precision of someone diffusing an explosive. "Unscheduled exposure to a bonded, capable species in a private state carries implications." "Bonded, capable?" I repeated. "That sounds flattering." Her gaze flicked to my mouth, then away again. "It is not." Another step closer. I backed up without thinking, the edge of my desk pressing into my lower back. She noticed immediately. Her shoulders tensed, like she'd cornered something that might bolt. "I am not here to harm you," she said. "Good," I replied, "because I'm currently at a disadvantage in every possible sense." That earned me a look sharp, annoyed, and threaded with something dangerously close to amusement. "Humans," she said, whose humor as a stress response. "Yeah," I said. "You walked into my room uninvited. We're well past stress." Her lips twitched despite herself. Then the moment snapped back into place, tension returning full force. "I came because your biometric readings dropped below baseline," she said. "Your wearable flagged it through the shared lab network." I blinked. "You hacked my wristband." "I optimized access," she corrected. "You missed 2 lab sessions. Your nutrient intake was inconsistent. Your sleep cycle was deteriorating." I stared at her. "You've been monitoring me?" "Yes." "That's unsettling." She tilted her head slightly. "You volunteered for a shared research cohort. Monitoring is standard." "Not at 2 in the morning," I muttered. Her gaze softened again, just a fraction. "You are not good at asking for assistance." I opened my mouth to argue, then stopped. Because she wasn't wrong, I hadn't wanted to look weak. Not here. Not as the human representative surrounded by species that measured worth in efficiency and control. "I was fine," I said finally. "You are standing unclothed, damp, and experiencing elevated cardiac output," she replied. This is not fine. I let out a breath. You're really committed to making this less awkward, aren't you? She exhaled slowly, visibly grounding herself. Kai, if this situation is mishandled, it could result in formal review. That got my attention. Review of what? Of you, she said. Of me. Of human integration protocols. My stomach tightened. She continued, voice low. You do not understand how closely your species is being watched. Any deviation from projected norms, especially involving cross-species compatibility, creates concern. Compatibility. That word landed heavier than it should have. So what? I said carefully. You walked in on me half, naked, and now the galaxy's nervous. She didn't deny it. Instead, she did something far worse. She reached out. Not to touch me, at least not yet, but to press her palm flat against the wall beside my shoulder, trapping me between her and the desk without fully committing to it. Forced proximity snapped into place, sudden and absolute. I could feel the vibration of her movements through the surface, could smell something faint and unfamiliar in the air, sharp and clean. Kai, she said quietly, you should have activated a privacy field. I didn't think I needed one. I replied again, my voice rougher now. That assumption, she said, was incorrect. Her eyes dropped again, slower this time, more deliberate. I held my breath without realizing it. Every instinct screamed that I should move, create distance, regain control. Instead, I stayed exactly where I was, pinned by the weight of her presence and the knowledge that she was fighting herself just as hard. This is not how humans are depicted, she murmured. I swallowed. What are we depicted as? She hesitated, then met my gaze. Less solid. I snorted before I could stop myself. Trust me, I'm not special. Her eyes flicked back up, narrowing slightly. Do not dismiss yourself. The words came out sharper than intended. Silence followed. Then she stepped back abruptly, breaking the closeness like it had burned her. She turned away, pacing once, running a hand over her crest in a clear self-soothing gesture. When she faced me again, her expression was controlled, but the damage was done. I should leave, she said. Probably, I agreed. Neither of us moved. Outside the room, the station hummed on. Inside, something fragile and volatile had been cracked open, and neither of us knew how to put it back. If this is reported, she said slowly, it will not be framed kindly. My jaw tightened. I didn't ask for this, I know, she said. That is what complicates it. She glanced at the door, then back at me. Protocol would require me to remain until your condition stabilizes. I raised an eyebrow. My condition? You are experiencing adrenaline shock, she said. Leaving you alone would be irresponsible. I gestured vaguely at myself. You sure staying is the safer option? Her gaze lingered for half a second too long. No, she admitted, but it is the correct one. She moved then, not toward the door, but toward my chair, pulling it closer to the bed with deliberate care. Sit, she said. Is that an order? It is a recommendation, she replied, then added, you will follow it. I did. As I sat, wrapped in nothing but a towel and consequences, Lyra remained standing a few steps away, arms crossed, eyes carefully averted. Forced proximity sustained this time by circumstance rather than instinct. Whatever line we'd crossed tonight, there was no stepping back over it, and we both knew it. The chair creaked softly under my weight, loud in a room where every other sound felt amplified. Lyra remained standing, perfectly still, as if movement itself might set something off. The distance she'd put between us was careful, calculated, and somehow more unsettling than when she'd been right there, pinning me without touching. Your heart rate is still elevated, she said after a moment. Shocking, I replied. Alien classmate breaks into my room, stares at me like I'm a lab specimen, starts talking about interspecies protocols. Yeah, I might be a little worked up. She winced. Actually winced. I did not break in, she said quietly. Your door access was improperly secured. Lyra, I said. Softer now. That is not helping. She exhaled, slow and controlled, then finally sat on the edge of my bed, no less. Not close enough to touch, not far enough to relax. Forced proximity again, but this time it felt deliberate. Like she was choosing it. We are taught, she began, eyes fixed on the floor, that humans are emotionally volatile but physically unremarkable. Adaptable, yes, persistent. Socially resilient, but not what? I asked. She hesitated. Not destabilizing. That word hit harder than I expected. I destabilize you. I asked. She looked up then, really looked at me, and didn't answer right away. The pause said more than any words could have. In the Dominion, she said finally, one expected attraction is treated as a system failure. Attraction? I repeated.
You're saying this is about?
No, she said quickly. I am saying this is about risk. But her voice lacked conviction. Before I could respond, a soft chime echoed through the room, my wall panel lighting up with an incoming system alert. Both of us froze instantly, eyes snapping to the source. Lyra stood in one smooth motion. Do not answer that. It's probably just a maintenance ping, I said, even as my stomach tightened. The panel chimed again, louder this time. I frowned. That's not normal, her jaw set. They are polling you. Who is they? The Integration Oversight Committee, she said. They monitor anomaly clusters. Anomaly clusters, I echoed. Am I an anomaly cluster now? You have been one for weeks, she said quietly. The panel chimed a third time. Respasi Rakouride. I stood ignoring her sharp intake of breath. If I don't answer, won't that make it worse? Yes, she admitted. But if you do, I tapped the panel before she could finish. Kai Mercer, I said. Dormitory B17. Everything's fine. There was a pause. Too long? Then STUSINCCL-USIV-INNTATCRCK. The room's ambient lights dimmed slightly as the station shifted power. I felt it in my bones, a subtle hum underfoot. Lyra cursed softly in her own language. That didn't sound good, I said. No, she replied. That did not. She turned to me, urgency replacing restraint. You need to understand something, Kai. If they determine you are involved in an unsanctioned compatibility event, compatibility again, I muttered. They will intervene, she continued, for your safety and for theirs. Intervene how? Her silence answered that question. My chest tightened. You mean relocation? Yes, or worse. Worse? I ran a hand through my damp hair, pacing once. All this because you saw me without a shirt. Her eyes flicked to me sharp. Do not trivialize this. I'm not trying to. I snapped, then caught myself. Sorry, I didn't ask to be some kind of test case. She softened again, that infuriatingly gentle shift that made it impossible to stay angry. I know, she said. That is why I am still here. The panel chimed again, this time accompanied by a faint vibration in the walls. Siko DRC Ras. Lyra stepped closer, lowering her voice. They will scan for additional life signs. My stomach dropped. You mean you? Yes! What happens if they find you here? She met my gaze steadily. Then I will have to explain why I was in your private quarters during a flagged anomaly. And that explanation is that I was ensuring your well-being, she said. Is that believable? In any other context, she replied, no. She took another step closer, lowering herself so we were eye level. Kai, I need you to remain calm. I let out a humorless laugh. You're really bad at timing. Her lips twitched despite everything. Then her expression grew serious again. If they detect elevated emotional resonance between us, it will escalate the response. Emotional resonance, I said. You people really know how to take the fun out of things. This is not fun, she said quietly. The lights dimmed further. Lifesisgienskan. Lyra's hand closed around my wrist before I could think better of it. Her touch was warm, grounding, and electric. I felt it instantly, a jolt that shot straight through my chest and settled somewhere dangerous. Her eyes widened. That, she whispered, is exactly the problem. I swallowed hard. You grabbed me? I know, she said, but she didn't let go. I needed to steady you. Feels like you're the one shaking? I said. She glanced down, clearly surprised to find it true. Her grip tightened slightly, then loosened, but still she didn't release me. Your species, she murmured, does not respond to proximity the way ours does. How do you mean? With resonance, she said. Feedback loops, emotional amplification. Lyra, I said softly, are you saying we're making this worse just by standing here? Yes! Then maybe you should step back. She didn't. Instead, she leaned in just enough that I could feel her breath, see the faint shimmer in her eyes as the scan's energy washed over us. The room hummed, alive with unseen scrutiny. "Too late," she whispered. The scan completed with a sharp tone. "Scatia undr revidu." For a moment, nothing happened. Then the panel flashed. "Ana milos antira farmned." My heart sank. Lyra closed her eyes. "This," she said quietly, "is where things stop being simple." I looked at her, really looked at her, and realized that whatever consequences were coming, she was choosing to face them with me, and that scared me more than any oversight committee ever could. The alert didn't blare. It didn't scream or flash red like in the movies. It simply changed tone. The words sat there calm and clinical, as if they weren't about to append my entire life. Lyra didn't move for a long moment. When she did, it wasn't in panic. It was with a kind of grim resolve I'd only ever seen on soldiers or people who'd already accepted the cost of what they were about to do. "You need to listen to me," she said quietly. "I'm listening," I replied, though my throat felt tight. "They will arrive within 4 minutes," she continued. "They will ask questions framed as concern. They will expect compliance. If you appear uncertain, fearful, or defensive, they will interpret it as instability." "Great," I muttered. Soft smile, her lips curved faintly. "Confidence." "Calm, agency," I repeated. Meaning, she said, meeting my gaze. "You must choose." My stomach sank. "Choose what?" She stepped closer again, no hesitation this time. The forced proximity returned, but now it felt intentional, protective. "To this moment," she said, "you have been categorized as a variable. Something to be studied, managed, corrected if necessary." "I don't love where this is going," I said. "You can change that," she replied, "but only if you assert yourself as a participant instead of a subject." I stared at her. "And how exactly do I do that?" Her voice dropped. "By claiming responsibility." "For what?" "For me." The words landed like a controlled detonation. "You're asking me to." "I am asking you," she interrupted gently, "to acknowledge that this interaction was consensual, mutual, and intentional. That you invited my presence. That I remained by choice. That's not entirely true," I said. Her gaze didn't waver. "It will be." Before I could respond, the door chimed, once sharp and final. Lyra straightened instantly, stepping half a pace away but not fully retreating. I stood beside her, heart hammering, towel still precariously clinging to my dignity. The door slid open. 2 figures stood outside, one human, one not. The human wore the neutral gray of administrative authority, face carefully composed. The other was taller, broader, their alien features rigid with barely concealed disdain. "Kai Mercer," the human said pleasantly. "I'm Director Havel. This is Overseer Threx. We're here for a brief wellness check." "Wellness," I echoed. "Yes," Havel said, eyes flicking briefly to Lyra, then back to me. We received a flagged interaction alert. Overseer Threx's gaze lingered on Lyra, sharp and disapproving. "Student Vexthal," he said. "Explain your presence." Lyra inhaled, clearly preparing to speak. I beat her to it. I invited her. Both of them looked at me. Havel raised an eyebrow. "You did?" "Yes," I said, surprised by how steady my voice sounded. "I wasn't feeling well earlier." She checked on me. We talked. "That's it." Overseer Threx's eyes narrowed. "Your biometric data suggests heightened resonance." "I was nervous," I replied. "You're standing in my room at 2 in the morning. A flicker of amusement crossed Havel's face before he masked it. "Understandable." Threx turned his attention back to Lyra. "You are aware of the risks." "I am," she said evenly. "And yet you stayed?" "Yes." Silence stretched. Havel studied us both, then sighed softly. "You realize," he said, "that this places responsibility on both parties." "That's fine," I said. Lyra's head snapped toward me. "I'm an adult," I continued. "She's an adult. If there's a concern, address it with us, not around us." Another pause, then slowly Havel nodded. "Noted." Overseer Threx's jaw tightened. "This is irregular. So is a multi-species academy," I replied. "That's kind of the point." For a long moment, I thought that might be it, that they'd push back, escalate, drag this into something uglier. Instead, Havel tapped his slate. This incident will be logged as a mutual interaction, he said. No corrective action will be taken at this time. At this time, they turned to leave, the door sliding shut behind them with a soft finality that made my knees weak. The room felt suddenly very small. I exhaled, long and shaky. Well, I said. That went better than expected. Lyra stared at me like I'd just rewritten her understanding of gravity. You claimed me, she said quietly. I told the truth, I replied. Mostly. That was not required, she said. It carries consequences. Yeah, I said. So does doing nothing. She searched my face, something vulnerable breaking through her usual composure. Why? She asked. I shrugged lightly. Because I didn't like the idea of you taking the hit alone. Her expression softened in a way that made my chest ache. In my culture, she said slowly, that is significant. I figured, I replied. She hesitated, then did something unexpected. She bowed her head slightly. Now personally, then I owe you honesty, she said. About why I froze, she admitted. It was not fear, not entirely. I waited. You are different from what we were told, she continued. Not because of your body, but because of how easily you stand your ground without dominance. I huffed. That might be the nicest thing anyone said to me this week. Her lips curved faintly. This changes things, Kai. I had a feeling, I said. She stepped back then, giving us both space at last. We should establish boundaries, she said. Carefully. Agreed, I replied. She paused at the door, a hand hovering over the control. But understand this, she added. They will watch us now. I met her gaze. Let them. Something unreadable flickered in her eyes, respect, curiosity, and a spark of something neither of us was ready to name. She nodded once, then slipped out into the corridor, the door sealing softly behind her. I stood alone in my room, heart still racing, mind reeling. My alien classmate had stepped into my room. She'd frozen when she saw me. And somehow, I had changed the way the galaxy looked at humans. I had a feeling this was only the beginning.